The gaming industry, in my opinion, has a brand new lolcow, ready to be milked at every opportunity possible. That's right, we're talking about Nintendo, the company that will do everything they possibly can to create as many friction points as possible for you, an actual paying customer. It's crazy how the people who do not pay for Nintendo products are getting a better experience overall. They don't have Nintendo banning their consoles for the most ridiculous reasons. They don't have to deal with having to be online to download a patch for their actual product that they paid for on day one to even have the features it's supposed to have out of the box. And best of all, they do not have to deal with game key cards. In my opinion, game key cards have been the biggest mistake Nintendo has tried to pull. And really, game key cards show me this. Nintendo is trying to control everything from that console to those games and even force publishers into their draconian practices more so than offering more options for you, the consumer. But see, things haven't been going really well for Nintendo in this facet. I know some people are going to be like, Alex, they sold 6 million units in a couple of weeks. You're just coping and you're a Nintendo hater. No, that's not the case at all. I have a Switch OLED. I've got some Nintendo Switch games. But the thing is this, Nintendo had an easy slam dunk with this console. They are literally stepping on every possible rake in their path to make it more difficult for you, an actual paying customer, to enjoy that product. And the game key cards are a major facet behind that. There have been countless times I have seen on Twitter and many other places of people saying, I'm simply just not going to buy a game key card because this is a portable device and I want to have a physical actual product. We've also seen rumors of publishers go around and state that the expectations on selling on the Switch 2 because of a game key card, that their sales have been lower than their lowest expectations, and that is a massive problem. We've also seen Nintendo CEOs try to talk to their board of directors about the game key cards and providing a non-answer overall. And you can try to defend this practice for some weird way if you'd like to, but the thing is the pressure is on because according to VGC, Nintendo is not sending out surveys specifically citing game key cards and if you're going to even in fact buy them. According to VGC, Nintendo survey seeks feedback on controversial game key cards, physical and digital purchases. Nintendo is gauging player opinion on Switch 2 game purchasing options. That's right. Now they want to know your opinion on the actual game purchasing options. It's almost as if making us think about it, talking about it, not buying the product, and literally just saying, hey, Nintendo, you are actually this up for everybody is in fact a good thing. I love this. I love it because now people are going to see and explain exactly what is wrong with game key cards. I cannot explain to you how satisfying this is, as so many other Nintendo fanboys have called me out specifically and many others for being negative Nintendo Nancys and going around and just farming the hate clicks about Nintendo simply because we're being critical of this company. Nintendo had the easiest W possible and decided to go ahead, tie their shoelaces together, get on the court, and then trip face first and then blame the crowd. That is exactly what is happening here. The thing is, if a consumer is going to be over by a company, you can bet your sweet bippy I'm gonna be there to call it out. This entire thing should be unanimous across every single user trying to purchase this product or even use a Nintendo Switch 2. I am literally advocating for you to own your digital and physical goods. How anyone can be against that and claim that I'm farming clicks or being a hater truly is the more insane thing about all of this. But let's see what the article had to say and go from there. As spotted on Reddit, Nintendo's survey asks respondents how many Switch titles they've bought in the past year for themselves or for others as gifts. Participants are then asked how many Switch games they have resold after playing. The survey goes on to ask whether players prefer purchasing games in physical format or digitally, and what the main reasons are for their preference. It then lists various ways players can purchase Switch 2 games, including the game keycard system, which is described but not named as such. For each method of purchasing Switch 2 games, players are asked how likely they would be to use it, from definitely to definitely not. And you gotta love to see it because this is Nintendo going around and admitting that they up, which is exactly what in fact happened. All they had to do was simply offer a physical game cart of varying sizes to the publishers and developers of third party and go ahead and say, hey, look, this is the options you had to choose from, and go from there. The problem is because Nintendo has been rumored to only give 3 options: digital only, game key card, or 64 gig card. That is the issue overall. Games that are 1 or 2 gigs or a few gigs as well, they're the ones being screwed over because there's no actual incentive for them to go ahead and use 64 gigs of data in order to have a 1 or 2 gigabyte title. But the thing is, people want to buy physical products and goods, especially for the Nintendo Switch. There are massive collectors, people who have their major walls of red virginity behind them, going around and showcasing exactly why they're so proud of what they bought. And that's not a bad thing. I've got my own little wall of virginity on my house. I got plenty of PS1 and PS2 games. My midlife crisis is kicking in pretty hard, by the way. But you know that Nintendo has to be sweating about this if these surveys continually happen, because it's not the first time this happened before. Let's take a look at the survey though and see what's going on. Here's the question about game key cards, not even named, but in fact just shown and explained. Physical, requiring digital download. The physical cartridge allows the download of a full digital game to the console. The cartridge must be inserted into the console to play the game. The cartridge can be shared and resold. Definitely would buy, probably would buy, might or might not buy, probably would not buy, definitely would not buy. Now I know what you're thinking, hey Alex, that image is kind of blurry. Why does it look like that? Well, it's because I had to pull it directly from the VGC website. And the bigger problem is when I tried to go to the survey itself to get a better picture, it turns out the survey was in fact closed because the link for the survey has been spread around the internet and everybody has been removing the tracker to go ahead and let Nintendo know what is in fact happening. This is the easiest W Nintendo could in fact make. All Nintendo has to say is that now, hey, developers and publishers who are third party, we're going to be offering different sizes of actual carts so that way your game doesn't have to require a 64 gig card and you can use whatever size fits your game exactly. And that way there's no issue overall and you can have the sales that you need and things will work out great. Nintendo is in fact trying to squeeze out, like I said, every penny not only from you as a customer, but also from third party publishers and developers. And in some point, I could possibly see a lawsuit happening towards Nintendo because of this game keycard fiasco and restriction. The fact that they are forcing publishers and developers to either be all digital, have a game keycard only, or spend the highest amount of money possible for an option that they do not even need in the first place. It seems overly restrictive, and in my opinion, Nintendo's consistent inability to go ahead and stick with the times. But I'm not the only one that feels that way. According to the article by VGC, Stephen Kick, the CEO of Night Dive Studios, which specializes in modern remasters of older, often out-of-print games, told GamesIndustry.biz that seeing Nintendo do this is a little disheartening, adding you would hope that a company that big that has such a storied history would take preservation a little more seriously. And that's the thing. They don't take preservation seriously. That's why they shut down all the storefronts and all their older systems. That's why backwards compatibility was only a factor for the Switch 2 after they took down all the emulation sites and basically used all of that code, rumored by the way, into their emulators for the Switch 1 into the Switch 2. This entire thing basically showcases exactly that Nintendo has no idea what they're doing and the fact that they are literally going around and trying to do the worst possible thing for you and people will gobble it up simply because it has the word Nintendo on it. Hell, even PlayStation fanboys who don't have to worry about game keycards are saying shit like this. Game key cards, no issue with them. I bought Spider-Man 2 for $230 and got an empty steel case. Quit manufacturing outrage. $230 and you got an empty case. You got a statue. You got 19 inches of Venom to shove right near your ass, but you're going to be like, game? What game? Who cares about f***ing game? I didn't buy this thing for the game. Look. It's people like this and morons that do this exact same thing that try to defend companies and corporations by giving them less product over time, yet charging them more money is exactly why the gaming industry is in the state that it's in right now. Nickel and diming you, the customer and consumer, over and over again. But thankfully, there are in fact proper level-headed individuals who understand why game physical preservation and why game ownership is so important. Endicaba on Twitter said this: I may be a brand ambassador of Nintendo, but even I recognize the issues with game keycards. It's the whole reason for this survey. The reason people are so against game keycards is because it literally makes no sense in every possible way. Going to a physical retail store to buy a game more than likely means that the consumer is attempting to buy a physical product that they can pop into their consoles at any time and play it. For example, let's say a family is on a road trip and don't have access to Wi-Fi. They find a retailer to buy a video game for their child to keep them occupied on the trip. But now they realize that the game they bought is nothing more than a paperweight until they find a place with Wi-Fi because the quote physical game they bought is a game keycard. It is an inconvenient method that makes things more convoluted for playing physical games than it needs to be. If it is physical, the entire game needs to be accessible on the cartridge and can be played at any time, anywhere, without the need to download any extra data from online to get it to work. Yes, sir, baby! That is the entire point why people buy physical. Yet for some reason, clowns and idiots like the one we saw before don't understand that. If you are buying a physical product, the expectation is it should work without needing the internet. And we see this happen over and over again. Stop making excuses for getting less product and owning less of it while giving the company more money. It gives you nothing in return except a worse outcome and a worse experience. But you see, it's not just this. It turns out in that survey being pointed out by people on Twitter that Nintendo may in fact be trying to skew the data about physical sales. Here's Leon Chameleon saying this: you can tell they are trying to skew the data towards physical being unfavorable to the business. And he shows an actual picture of the survey showing, I like collecting physical games. It's easier to gift physical games to others. I'm able to find used copies of physical video games at lower prices. I find it easier to share physical games across the Nintendo Switch devices in my household. I can sell physical games when I'm finished playing them. I'm often able to find good discounts or sales on physical games. Physical games provide a stronger sense of ownership. I like the collectible items and artwork, steelbooks, manuals, and etc. that sometimes come with physical versions. There are certain Nintendo franchises that tend to want to own physical versions of, and also none of the above. You can absolutely see why Nintendo would look at this from this perspective, like Leon is pointing out and saying, hey, look, here's an exact reason why physical is also a bad thing. We do not want people buying these games at lower prices. We don't want people selling them back. We don't want people trading them. We don't want people finding discounts or sales. And we sure as shit don't want people to have actual ownership of these titles and games, because if they're digital, then they're required to be part of our online service and always have to be connected, and then we always have them roped into our network, making them sticky, I think would be the best way to put it. But you see, it actually does get a little more sinister than just trying to go ahead and paint physical as a bad thing. Tenchigami on Twitter said this: I can only check these answers. Why exactly? Do they not want people to answer too favorably towards physical games, perhaps? Posting a picture of that exact survey we saw before, but yet with the small text showing no more than 3 choices may be answered. It's almost like they're doing this on purpose. They are giving you the selection of all the reasons why you want to have physical products, but you can only pick 3, which signifies, like Leon Chameleon posted before, that yes, they are trying to skew this as a negative towards physical products and use this data so that way they can continue to push game key cards and say, guys, look. The data shows that we don't want them to have physical ownership. We don't want them buying the game at a cheaper price. No, game key cards are the way, you guys. You can do all of that with a game key card. See, there's no reason for any of this. It's a waste of time. They're literally restricting you. It's crazy. But that's the biggest problem with Nintendo. It seems like what they really want to do is exert more control over the product that you've purchased rather than giving you the actual product that you're paying for. And that's why everybody's been so angry about game key cards, especially. And that's where this all gets even worse, because Nintendo's insane heavy-handed approach to bricking consoles instead of just simply banning accounts makes a horrible cycle of people getting their Switch 2 banned, buying another one, then selling their old Switch 2 that's been banned to a third party like GameStop or etc. or somebody else, and leaving them with nothing more than a brick because they can't access the online services. And then having game key cards be a part of that factor as well, and just exerting more control over the products that you buy. That is the real issue going on around here, is Nintendo's inability to understand why people are in fact upset and wanting to stick to properly controlling the product directly after even purchase, which is the worst possible thing of all. Imagine if Nvidia was able to control your GPU simply because they didn't like the website that you went onto, or that you used a different set of drivers from another website and not theirs, or that you played a game that wasn't Nvidia sponsored and they bricked your GPU because of it. That's the exact kind of option we're seeing here. But they don't go ahead and lock your GeForce account. They brick your GPU from getting driver updates, so the only way it'll actually work is if you go out and get a new GPU on top of it. That's exactly the same thing we're seeing right now with the Switch 2. But it's even crazier because there are actual people defending game key cards, thinking it's an okay thing, or thinking that this survey isn't going to do anything at all. Here's DJ King Gaming, the mightiest disciple, saying this: that Nintendo survey is going to do nothing. It's an survey to Nintendo and for Nintendo. Nintendo doesn't use game key cards. This survey won't mean anything to the third-party publishers. Is my man? He's gotta be. He has to be. There's no way around it. He had to type this thing while he was crying onto his actual screen from his phone, and his thumbs were slamming away at light speed. Buddy, it's not about Nintendo's games. They're gonna put their games on the actual carts because they don't have to pay for the actual 64GB carts. It's about third-party games that people want to buy on their Switch 2. Nintendo is not offering third parties a viable alternative besides the 64GB card, so they have to pay for that extra space and do nothing with it, or go with a game key card or a digital only download. And people love to buy physical Switch games. That's why they bought the damn thing in the first place. For some reason, the autismo kicks in for Nintendo fanboys and they just want to buy it physically because that's what they want to do. Instead of Nintendo giving you the option to do so, or giving the publisher that's third party the option to do so, they are restricting that purchase and they're restricting that sale, which means Nintendo is controlling not only you, the actual customer consumer, but they're controlling third-party publishers who are independent of Nintendo. It's wild to see that anyone would even be so blatantly stupid and idiotic and totally not understand this concept overall. But it gets even worse for this defense force. Here's Kennedy Clark quote tweeting another user talking about wanting to buy more games on their PS5 rather than actually buying games for their Switch 2. He says, what's wild about this take is that you still have to install that PS5 game before you can play it. It's damn near the same thing. Once you install it, you need the disc inside the game key to play it. The only difference is where you're installing it from. You have to be fucking stupid, my boy. That's not the same thing. In fact, you are so dumb, you got community noted by everybody making fun of you in the first place. Here's the community note. While there are indeed a handful of PlayStation 5 discs that do not contain all of the game data, a large amount do. Unlike a game key card, these games are copied from the disc to the system and not downloaded from the internet. That's what people are talking about, my boy. People do not want to be connected to the internet. If the disc gets installed onto my hard drive on my console, I don't have to be online to download the game. If the game's on the disc, that's all people want, my boy. That's exactly the actual point. Your best example would have been what Microsoft did with Doom: The Dark Ages, where the disc only had 85 megs of data, and it was nothing more than a coaster, an actual game key in a disc format, and the people had to download the game. You're talking about installing the game from the disc, which doesn't need internet in the first place. God, people don't even know what they're arguing against. It's just, God. And what's even crazier is the guy got 2,500 likes. People were agreeing with him. Guys. We live in a simulation. It's all not real. I can't. People literally read that and they agreed with it. They were like, oh, yup, got him. Oh, God, dude, I can't. Oh, it's going to get worse, isn't it? It always gets worse. It always does. Welcome to the channel. It always gets worse. Just how it is. Here's Juice Man Vaughn, a classic of the channel, saying this: complains about ownership in relation to keycards, but would buy Steam games. Their arguments make no sense. Let's go ahead and debunk this shit right now. PC is an open platform. You have the ability to buy your game and own your game digitally across multiple storefronts, whether it's on Steam if the game is DRM free, or Steam is in fact the DRM of the actual product, or even things like GOG, or dare I even say the one word that strikes fear into every Nintendo fanboy: piracy. You can literally pirate your game and own it digitally. You aren't restricted by the actual console manufacturer or whoever owns that piece of plastic on where you can buy your game, how you can own it, or what you can do. If you buy your game on Steam, you are notified whether or not there is DRM on that digital license and whether or not you truly own it. There are games on Steam as well that you don't even require Steam to be open to run in the first place, like Baldur's Gate 3, for example, or even The Witcher, or even Cyberpunk, or any game on GOG, for example. You have digital actual ownership. The problem isn't the fact that people are buying games digitally on the Nintendo Switch. That's not the problem. Nobody cares about buying digital on the Switch. The problem is Nintendo took a half-step measure and said, well, it's digital, but we'll make you feel like it's physical so we can control the product even more and make you more comfortable with buying digital in the first place. That's what they're doing. It's a stepping stone for you to be all digital and not own anything, because you're not on an open platform. You're on a closed ecosystem controlled by Nintendo directly. So you don't have a way out. You don't have a way to crack those games. You don't have a way to provide actual ownership of those digital titles. You are stuck between a rock and a hard place. That's exactly where Nintendo wants you to be. But you're so fucking stupid, you can't even realize what you're saying. And that's the craziest part of all of this. Any excuse in the book being thrown to defend Nintendo in every way possible is wild to me. How people will do this over and over again when Nintendo is clearly in the wrong. But hopefully this survey goes through and Nintendo sees the error of their ways. And if they do turn around on game key cards and offer publishers of third parties different types of sizes for actual cartridges, then it would be a good thing overall for the consumer and customer. They would make more sales, Nintendo would make more money, and people would be happier buying the product on that platform. It would be a good thing overall. It would be like the one thing Nintendo could do out of the myriad of other fuck-ups they've done this entirely brand new console cycle. But hey, who's to know what's going to happen? Honestly, I don't know. But you know what? Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Do you like key cards? Do you not like key cards? Or anything else along that nature? And are you getting yourself a Switch 2? I want to hear what you guys have to say. If you want to see more of this kind of content, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content, my hot takes in the gaming industry like this, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 89,000 subs, and I just want to say thank you guys so very much. If you want Discord access or emotes during live streams, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. You don't want to spend the buck? Don't sweat it. Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, live on this channel. Trust me, it's a hell of a show. You don't want to miss it. Once again, Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. It's a live stream that is just an entire shit show of people insulting me with AITTS for about 5.5 hours. There's nothing better on the internet than that, trust me. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you gooners next time. Peace!